Hey friends, welcome back to my channel. I'm Adrienne with Our Dream of Simple Living. So in today's video, we are going to talk just a little bit about knowing when it's time to let things go. So let me explain what I mean by that. We are in the garden season, y'all. We can call it spring, we can call it summer, but I can tell you now, if you are in a hot climate like mine, humid climate like mine, where it's already getting into the 80s, the high 80s, undoubtedly, if you have spring crops, cool weather crops in the garden, they're probably already starting to show signs. Now, there are seasons, there are years where I have had peas that have went well into 90-degree weather. I have had radishes that have done okay. They've gotten a little spicy. But most of my cool weather crops just can't hang, y'all. And what I like to do is, instead of just saying, okay, it's hot, I'm just gonna start pulling things, I like to kind of listen to my crops, because what I would hate to do is pull something out of the garden that probably could have went a little bit longer, and I probably could have gotten some type of harvest. Well, here's the thing. Some of our cool weather crops we ended up planting a little late. I mentioned this in another video. I had some health challenges and we had a lot going on. And again, I don't worry so much about what I can't get in the spring, because I love the fall garden, and all of these things can be planted out in the fall garden. And most of these things, if not all of these things, actually do better in the fall garden. So I'm going to show you some of the things that I look for when I decide, hey, it's time for you to go. All right, so when I'm looking at these radishes, right now, these radishes I actually put in a little bit later because my original patch of radishes literally did nothing. What I'm looking at is a bunch of pretty greens, but some of these greens have these little flower pods in them. The stalk is much thicker than the others, and you can see that I have several like that. Right now, I have several varieties in here, so not all of them are like this. Some of them may be a little bit more heat tolerant, so I'll come in and kind of harvest this area and give the other ones a few days just to see what's going to happen. But then when I look over here at my spinach that we've waited forever for, can you see that flower going right up in the middle of it? There's no reason for me to keep this in here, okay? All right, friends, so the audio some kind of way got messed up here, so I'm going to do a voiceover. We came out a couple of days later and we went ahead and pulled up those radishes and actually found that some of them were actually purple top turnips. So I'm pretty sure that we planted these a little too close, but hey, great harvest. Now, if you're a gardener that has a lot of space and you're willing to just wait and see what happens, absolutely leave it. It may turn out to be something that gives you a great harvest. But for me, I have so many peppers that I need to go ahead and get in the ground that it just makes no sense for me to keep those plants in the ground. Radishes, actually, I've heard a lot of people say that when they go to flower, the little pods that they produce are actually better than the radishes. I'm not really interested at this point in waiting until they go to flower, again, because I have other things that I can pop in their place. Now the spinach, we just didn't do well with the spinach, and I'll say this over and over again, that's okay, because again, all of these things can be replanted in the fall. It's gonna do better. We're gonna have cooler weather. They were literally devoured in some areas. Like, I had a ton of spinach that was just devoured by grasshoppers and other things. So I'd rather put them in the ground when they're going to actually be able to survive. Sometimes we get them in the ground a lot. Now, I will say this. Next spring, I will be putting them in the ground a lot earlier than I did. I'm also looking into some plants that I can actually put in the ground in the fall that will actually overwinter, that will be fine, because we can start harvesting a lot earlier than we did this year. This year, again, things just did not work out the way that I wanted them to. But I am so grateful, y'all, for what we did get. Like, we've still been harvesting every single day. Yesterday, we came out and we got a bunch of peas. We ate those for dinner. We ate radishes yesterday for dinner. So I'm excited about it. Now, let me show you something else that would probably make you say, I need to pull that, but I'm going to tell you why I'm not going to pull it. All right, so you can see here that I have a bunch of kale, right? Bunch of kale. And if you look at that kale, and if you look at these greens, because some of these, I think they're mixed in with collard greens, some of them are still looking great. You see these down here? We've got some leaves on the that have holes on the bottom, but for the most part, they look really good. Then you look at this one that literally is riddled with holes, so you know that caterpillars have come in here and torn this up. Guess what? Typically in the past, I would have pulled that plant and said, you know what? It's not gonna do anything. I'm gonna get rid of it. But let me tell you why I'm not gonna get rid of it. So right now, that plant is acting as a trap plant for me. Let me tell you what a trap plant is. A trap plant is one of those plants that, yes, it may be something that you wanted in the garden. That's one of my kales that I actually really, really love. However, the bugs have taken that plant on. The caterpillars have taken that plant on, and they are literally devouring it. But they are not touching many of my other kale plants. So I'm going to let that plant stay as long as I can let it stay, as long as my other kale is looking pretty good, because I'm going to let that be a trap plant to where they're leaving my other kale alone. So remember, you can put trap plants. A lot of people put different flowers like, what is the one? I know that marigolds are really good around tomatoes, and I'm planning to put some of those around my tomatoes if I can find them. And then there's another one. I can't remember. If I can remember the name, I'll actually put it in the video. But there's a lot of different flowers that you can put as trap plants. However, in the past, I have actually found that my best trap plants are my kale plants. I've had kale plants last year. I actually had a kale plant that I left in the ground the whole summer. It looked horrendous at the end of the summer, but none of my tomatoes were eaten the way that kale plant was. Now, I've made the mistake over here in my other garden bed around my tomatoes. I meant to actually just plant some kale plants, and I may actually put some seeds in the ground to see what they do, because that has been my greatest trap plant. So even if I see that some of this other kale is starting to get eaten up, I may still leave it in the ground just to have a trap plant. So let me show you how my other kale is actually looking, even though we're going into hotter months. Now, here are days. Now, here's the thing. They may start looking terrible, and that's totally fine. And I may end up pulling quite a few of them to make some space, but I really don't have a ton in these front beds that I really need to plant other than peppers. Just some, plants like that. But I don't know. I'm just going to see how long they grow. So again, if you look at that really devoured, and it's not horribly bad, it's getting there. But if you look at it, it's really trapping all those bugs for all the rest of this kale. Y'all, this kale really just started growing. And I have found, and you can see this one's kind of getting, eaten up a little bit, but the new growth has been coming in. But what I found is that my beans are being, left alone. They've been left alone for a little bit here. So, I don't know. And this is not something that's, always the case. This is just what I'm noticing right now in my garden. Yours may be totally different. So, don't take this as, oh my gosh, this is the way it has to be, because honestly, every year it's different. Now, if you look here, this lettuce has basically started to send up this big, thick stalk. This one has done the same. You can see it better here, this thick stalk. This one, I can probably still go ahead and harvest a little bit and see how long it will last. But what I do know is these lettuces will probably be a little bit bitter, So I'm probably not going to worry about those. I'm probably just going to take those out and just be okay with it. You know, we've gotten a lot more off these lettuces than I thought we would. So I'm not really worried about it, y'all. I'm just going to let it go. Now, a crop that I am really, really sad about, and I talked about this in my last video, is my onions. I'm kind of struggling right now with whether or not to pull some of these onions because they're just not doing well. I have some that look like they're getting bigger, but they're not bulbing. Now, here's the thing. They're not a complete loss because, again, these can be harvested. I can take those greens. I can make onion powder. I can freeze those greens. We can just use them outright. I don't know if you've ever had green onions and eggs, but they are divine. But they're just not doing well. I don't know what to do about that because when I had onion, you know, these are onion sets. When I had onion slips, I had the same situation. I'm fertilizing them. I'm not over fertilizing them. So I don't know. I don't know what to do about onions. I don't want a ton of onions because I don't have storage for that. But I would love some onions to be able to fresh eat and to be able to dice up and put in the freezer. So some of the onions that are looking bigger, I may go ahead and leave those. But some of them that I know are just tiny, I'm probably going to go ahead and let them go. Again, sometimes you have to make that decision. Sometimes you want to leave everything in the garden because you're like, I want this so that I can harvest it. But it's just not worth it when you can put other things in the ground and go ahead and get a head start on them growing. So I want to show you guys something. In the last video, literally yesterday, I shot that video yesterday. These beans were not up. Can y'all see this? If you go back in my video yesterday, you will see. There were like 3 or 4 peeking out of the ground. Friends, look at these beans. We basically almost have 100% germination from these beans, and I am just completely floored. I'm going to tell you guys, if you are not gardening, if you have by chance found my channel and you're not a gardener yet, why aren't you doing it? There are some things that you can literally put in the ground, seed to harvest within 30, 40, 50 days. Not everything will be that way, but some things will. I'm telling you guys, it is so worth it to be able to see the seeds that you put in the ground like less than 5 days ago start to actually produce. Now, again, you guys know if you've been around that I'm having lots of issues with my beans. Most of them are recovering really well. They're doing okay. I'll show you some that literally, I don't know what happened to them, but they're actually starting to grow up and flower. So I'm going to let those go. I'm not going to pull them until I know that they are just absolutely going to do nothing. But let me show you guys. We came out here and we harvested quite a few peas yesterday, and they were delicious. And now I'm back out here and we have quite a few more. Now, I like for them to get bigger than this, but y'all, these are some of the plants that we literally just come out. A lot of times they don't even make it inside. Now, these peas, what I noticed is that when I cook them, I sauteed them with a little bit of coconut oil. They had this floral taste to them. And I was like, what in the world is going on? So I cooked them with some radishes. They were divine, friends. They were divine. So start growing stuff, y'all. Start growing stuff. And if you haven't started growing stuff and you're not sure that you can start growing stuff or what you can start growing, let me just tell you, you still have time to go out and buy some tomato plants and put them in the ground. You still have time to go out and buy some pepper plants and put them in the ground. You still have time to go to the store and get a package of cucumber seeds and throw those in the ground. Listen, I would not purchase cucumber plants or melon plants because they grow so quickly. It's not worth it. A lot of times with melons and cucumbers and different things like that, they don't like to be transplanted. They don't like for their roots to be interrupted. I'm going to show you guys something that literally happened within 3 days in my garden. 3 days, I counted. And this is the reason why you do not need to go and buy a cucumber plant. Let me show you. All right, 3 days ago, my daughter planted these cucumber seeds. It took 3 days. Now we're gonna thin them out. Took 3 days for them to pop up. 2 days before that, I planted these, and you can see that they're already starting to get some leaves on them. Now, to each his own. I hear a lot of people that say that they do better with starting their cucumber seeds inside. That has never been my experience. Again, I say try both ways. I've just found that a lot of the cucumber and melon plants that I pick up from the store just never do well for me. I don't know if they're already kind of riddled or spent before we get them, but they've just never done well. So again, that's something that you'll have to kind of test out, test that theory, see what does for you. So I want to show you guys down here, I came in and planted some kale by seed. Now this year, the ones that are in the front, like these bigger ones, I actually started inside, but years past, I've always just started my kale from seed. And I wanted to see the difference. I will tell you guys, the kale that I started by seed, to me, just does better. Takes a little bit longer. Now, mind you, if I had known that I wanted to put them in the ground by seed, I would have came out and planted them a lot earlier. But that's why they're small. But this is okay because I really love for my greens to be baby greens. I don't like for them to be huge. So like the size of this kale is perfect for me. The size of this kale is perfect for me. Now I'm letting them grow a little bit bigger because my husband likes them a little bit bigger. And really, I just haven't came out here and harvested them. But, you know, to me, it took my transplants a lot longer to do anything. And so, honestly, planting them by seed to where they have plenty of time really didn't make a huge difference to me. Now, I wanted to show you that bean plant that literally went through something. Y'all, I don't know what the heck happened to this bean plant. But as you can see, actually both of them were really just kind of destroyed. I don't know what was going on, but look at them now. They're getting bigger. They're starting to put on flowers. Pretty soon we'll see some flowers, and I think they're gonna be just fine. And honestly, the majority of my beans that I put in the ground that had a hard, pretty hard start got kind of eaten up or doing the same. So I'm gonna leave them, let them go, do their thing, and we'll just see what we get. So anyway, friends, that was a really quick video. I'm just kind of letting you guys know what to look for and letting you know that sometimes it's really okay to just give up on certain crops, especially when you know the season for them is basically gone. It's time to just move on, right? So I'll be doing some harvesting probably today, tomorrow morning, just coming out here and pulling some plants. And we'll just put some new plants in the ground. I'm gonna mend that soil. I like to put a little bit of fertilizer in that space before I plant anything. And then I also like to put a little bit of worm castings in that space. And that has always worked well for me. So anyway, friends, I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, go ahead and consider giving it a thumbs up and consider subscribing. We have so much more new content coming for you. I hope that this has been helpful. And yeah, thanks for spending time in my garden with me. From my garden to yours, have a great day. Bye, friends.